Yeah, so it was May 3rd. It was May 3rd, 2016, and it had been a really, really, really warm spring in Calgary. And it was like it had been 25 degrees, 18 to 25 degrees the last week all over the city. So my in-laws were down, and we decided to drive through Banff all the way up to Jasper. And when we were there, like, I just remember it seemed very like that we saw enormous amounts of wildlife. We saw I think we saw a cluster of about 3 bears just driving up there. And then we saw going through the town, we saw numerous elk and mule deer and whitetail deer just literally everywhere. And you know, we went fishing and we saw a lot of, it was just like, you know, spring had really hit. And we had, we just stayed a night and we stayed in town, and then we for some reason, because my father-in-law, he kind of, you know, if I'm being frank here, he just kind of wants to rush everything. He doesn't like to stop and smell the roses. He likes to, like, get to his hotel room or to his house and just kind of wind down as fast as he can. So we had to get up at like early at like 7 in the morning. By the time we got breakfast and got gas, we headed around about 9 and we headed south. And so he doesn't like to stop and smell roses, and he was just busting ass so he could go drink scotch. And we hadn't even taken any photos. We'd been there. We're like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Like, we have to take some photos. We have to stop and at least get something. So we stop at what's called the Athabasca Look-Off. And I get out with my kids. And my oldest boy, Manny, who's kind of like a Bart Simpson-like character, we went and we saw there was this path. And the way you can describe it, it's like kind of like a crescent shape where there's asphalt and garbages. And there had been garbage torn out, which overlooks a valley into the mountain range, because there's all these trees and a river and everything going through. And then you could see mountains that were almost in British Columbia on the other side. And so I'm standing there, and it kind of just like goes as one ledge down, and then it goes down to the tree line. And I'm standing there with my phone in my hand, and again I'm noticing how much life is there. I saw like these little grouse-like birds, and I saw some like little fat little rodent and bunch of bees and insects, and flowers were blooming. It was really beautiful. And I had my phone in my hand. I'm trying to take a picture, and I'm like looking, and I'm thinking, well, if I move this side, I can get like this tree out of the way, and I can see the mountain, and then I can kind of line up everything perfectly. And I'm kind of going through that thought process, and then all of a sudden, on my 10 o'clock at the tree line, about 60 feet away, maybe 100, it's hard to tell, but decent, like enough that I felt close to it. I look down, and I hear the sudden pop and a snap, and then I look down, and I'm like, I look to my 10 o'clock, and I'm like, I just see, and the sunlight was pretty bright on it, so you could see a lot of detail. Like the sunlight had been reflecting off the leaves actually on top of the creature, so like parts of it. But anyways, I just looked and I was like, my first thought was like, what the fuck is that big man doing down there? And my initial thought, like, I just saw black with a kind of a cone head and then very broad shoulders, and rhythmically walking through the forest where it had a tree in its hand. And I remember just kind of like staring at it, and like my initial thought was like, it was kind of weird. It was like some big giant black dude from fucking the NBA or like the Calgary Stampede, or some 6'10", 7'5" black guy, like was out with his buddies camping. There's a campground down there, and he zipped up his hoodie and is like wandering around intoxicated, high on drugs, or like avoiding the bugs or something. He's lost or went to take a piss or what. And then, so initially that's just what you'd think, and that's kind of what I thought. It was weird, but it didn't take very long when I could see the muscles in its deltoids and just the side of its head, and where you could tell the hairline on the forehead and everything like that. And no sooner had I kind of recognized what I was looking at and kind of gotten like a holy fuck moment, I got about a second more of looking at it and just kind of being like, okay, yeah, this is what it is. And so I instinctively turn up to my wife and kids who are on the ledge with a bunch of German tourists, And I didn't try and make any noise, but I was like, Donna, like just yelling, trying to get her attention. And I was like, oh fuck, I gotta look at this thing again. And as soon as I went to look down at it again, like, it was just kind of a loud, just like Les Strauss had in his thing. It was just like, bang, crash, boom, bang, crash. Just gone. I just kind of remember, it almost like it was like a video game in a weird way. The way just I saw the back of his foot and just kind of leaning before it was just gone. And then I picked up, I didn't know how far it went. And I thought maybe it had looped around and come back or something. So I had a big rock in my hand. And I just remember whipping it up in the air. And it actually hurt my shoulder. I threw it so far because I had so much adrenaline. And watching it crash to the woods. And it went far. I mean, this rock went really far. And it didn't throw anything back. So then we get in the car. And my wife's like, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. And we're speeding up. And yeah, it was just weird. Like, it was really stressful. And then we just, like, the kids are crying and then we're arguing. And, you know, like, we're not frothing at the mouth, but, like, you know, it's an intense situation. And then we drove a bit further. We're kind of trying to get our bearings and figure out how to calm the situation. Like, we're just, like, we're in shock. And I went out and I threw up on the side of the road. And Donna got back in the car and we kind of just calmly talked. And she was just kind of like, didn't want to talk. She didn't want to talk with details or anything because later on she had said, like, everyone heard, like, there was a very loud pop and a snap when it broke that tree. It wasn't, like, you could feel it almost. And I remember, like, she said that everyone, like, kind of heard that. And, like, they had been, like, kind of motionless. And they're just like, well, what the fuck? And then they all looked down and they see my face. And they were just, like, scared the living shit out of everyone. So, yeah, that's basically... Yeah, I mean, that's just it. My wife doesn't actually ever admit to... I think she wants to boom. I think once or twice she's admitted it happened. But she just kind of says... she really doesn't want to talk about it. Like, it's just weird there's monsters that live in the woods. Like, it's actually kind of disturbing. What's a person? It's just an old man. It's like an ancient man. It looks nilotic. Like, there's a guy, his name's Todd Standing, and we were in that general area, so these would be the same population, I think. And he has all these videos of them on the internet, and the funny thing is, like, at first when I saw them, I'll just be frank, they're not real. They don't look like that. They look like men. They were just ancient men, from what I could tell. Like, I didn't see it long enough, but it has certain facial characteristics that men have. But they have a much more broad... Like, it's just weird, and they have a weird smile on them. And it was funny, I completely forgot about the smile. And then I saw something smile like it, just in a big, like, emotionless grin. So the area I saw it in, there was like an opening, right? There was a bunch of trees, and then there was like a bunch of pine trees, big pine trees. But there was an area about 20 feet long. But it was like, just like almost like a creek channel, right? But with like small deciduous trees, like little poplars or birches or something. And an opening and bushes, right? Like, it was definitely a point of entry, right? And I think it was trying to cover it up. But yeah, so like I saw like the first couple steps, and then I saw it was just gone, right? Like I saw it's just weird because I remember just seeing the things just stand out. Like, I remember the cone, the head was kind of conical, the shoulders were broad, the eyes were sunken, the belly was slightly distended, the arms were very long. It had kind of a bluish gray skin. Face is just, it just looked like a monkey man. I don't know how else to describe it. It was shedding. I remember, like, it looked like its winter coat was kind of coming off. Yeah, there was hair up to, like, it was just like a shitty, like, redneck beard. It seemed like not a thick, not like your beard you have right now where it's all thick. Like, it just seemed more like a teenager who could grow a beard but didn't know how to coordinate it properly. I think it was in the garbage because the garbage was out. There was all kinds of garbage in those like Parks Canada, like super grizzly fit garbages, right? And there was like some had been into some Burger King and stuff like that. The crows are all picking through it too, but I don't think the crows are smart enough to figure it. Well, actually, crows could be. But yeah, and it's just like, but there's lots to eat. Like, that whole area is filled with life. And then on the drive home, we saw 3 more bears. That's the fucked up part. No, this is not a bear. You can just tell. Like, when I saw its eyes and its deltoid muscles, and as it gets just in its stomach and its face with a grin on it, you're just like, yeah, that's not a bear. It's clear it's not a bear. Anytime I'm in the woods, really, I love the woods. Like, it's like that feeling. I remember after I saw Jurassic Park that summer when I was in grade 3. All I did was I'd run around our forest by our house, and I always thought there was a big 40-foot T-Rex is going to pop out of the bushes. It's that feeling you get, right? Yeah, it's like you get that back. But I don't really have it here bad because I don't think they live in this province. But when I was in Alberta, I was particularly deep in the woods. And when I used to work in the oil patch and I was deep in the woods, like I was like, I can't, like I'd look out over like Fox Creek, like the woods behind there, between there and Grand Cache. And I'd just be like, I fucking can't believe these things are fucking out here. Yeah, my dad still does it. My brother has no problem with it. My dad actually, I told him, I told my mom, or I told my dad. Who did I tell? I told my dad, I think. And then I never told my mom, and my mom confronted me about it. And she's like, you never told me you saw one of those. I was like, yeah, I did actually. Manny, the kids know about it. The kids talk about it. They were there. Donna doesn't talk about it. Donna never liked going in the woods in the first place. I mean, that's just it, right? So, I don't know. It's like one of those things. I don't know if it makes life more exciting or it makes life more terrifying to know that these things exist. I don't know. I think the world's I don't know. It's just it's interesting. We haven't conclusively verified these animals exist, or these people. Yeah, I still think I'm crazy, but it's just like I'm like when I'm lucid about it, when I'm like, what did you see? This. What is this known to be generally? This. Okay, like your wife and everyone heard you. Okay, fine. There was witnesses of your son got weird feeling out, and so it's just like that, because really, like, it's, I don't know, it's something you would never actually think exists, but it does. And it's anyone who I listen to a lot of people like talk about this subject now. I've done some research, and anyone who's like doesn't think they're a little bit crazy for seeing this, it's hard to believe them. Because it's definitely it's a life. It's just not supposed to be there, but it is there. So yeah, I don't know. It's just you really just kind of you have a hard time accepting it, but you know what you saw, so you talk about it. It's just we have like this. We have a breeding population of like humans, like the Homo erectus species or something below that, or the large 9-foot to 7 to 10 foot tall humans, like that cover in hair, that know their environment really well and have a big enough population not to just inbreed to death or die of syphilis and just kind of wipe themselves out. And to be hidden is kind of interesting, because they do exist, and it's really kind of one of those things I'm still kind of it's just like the people put a lot of trail cams out. You know what I mean? People put a lot of trail cam, and there are good trail cam photos. I've looked at them. People have gotten on trail cam photos, but you'd think we'd get something really, really conclusive and definitive, and you don't. When I talked, because one of the parts of my story we didn't talk about is I called the Department of Natural Resources. Hinton, and I've showed you the email before, I'm quite sure. and this is interesting, the report he gave back to me was like 70% accurate to what I said to him, right? Which is really interesting. So a lot of the accounts out there, anything that's officially recorded, I think you'd want to revisit and like look at it, because I looked at what he wrote me and I was like, well, that's not true. I didn't say that. You know what I mean? It's weird, but you know, nonetheless, I talked to him, and he was a young fella. He didn't know what was going on. And then someone else called me, and he was just like, yeah, like, they are here. Like, don't go, like, don't approach one if you see it. You know, like, we don't know what the hell's going on. Like they, apparently, on the highway going between Grand Cache and Grand Prairie, just the 40 there. Apparently, he told me there'd been a bunch of couples. There was some event that used to go on down in Grand Cache, and then people in Grand Prairie would go to it and then drink and then drive home. And it was in the spring, late spring, like June, July, early July maybe, I don't know. And I just remember he told me that like a couple couples driving home one night had reported there was like, oh look, there's a bunch of deer. And in the twilight, and then they're like, oh, look at that giant thing standing next to them. And there's this big brownish red-headed, just standing there, like next to the deer. And what he said is, he's like, I would guess he's like, you know what they were doing? They were jacking the deer. They're waiting for the headlights to stun the deer, and then grab them, break their necks, and run in. And he says, apparently these things are really still. And he told me like, he had a guy who worked at the department for a long time, who really was like half Cree or something like that, and a real sharp cat, and like knew the woods and had never seen any evidence of them. And then he said he had two Mormon guys who come up, and they were crossing the road and almost hit one with their truck. So, I guess it's kind of like that. And apparently a lot of he was telling me a lot of the people who plant the trees, the tree planters and stuff like that, have a lot of encounters with them and bump into them and stuff like that. And he was saying he thinks that has to do with the fact that they I guess those areas, like, there's a lot when there's new growth, there's a lot of like tender plants and stuff, and a lot of wildlife. They attract a lot of wildlife, berries and stuff grow in those areas and stuff. So he says a lot of people, especially like if they have to come back to them, he said, like after they're a bit more established, he says they like those areas. And then he just kind of told me, he said like, one thing he did say to me, and this is funny, he said just so you know you're not crazy. It's funny, he led the conversation off like this. He said just so you're not crazy. He said a family had seen it eaten out of the trash earlier that morning and reported it. So I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, okay. And you still think you're crazy, though. You think they're crazy. You think you're both crazy. It's just strange. It's like one of those things, right? It's like, I don't believe in the Loch Ness Monster, and I think UFOs are, there's something going on there, but, we don't know what it is. It doesn't necessarily be extraterrestrial life, but they're a species. There's a link between man and some giant carnivorous ape that's probably kidnapping and eating people, living in our woods, and it's just kind of weird. It just really ruins your Disneyland version of the world. That's like, yeah. It's one of those things that's just like, you kind of have to just dissect it, right? It was funny, there's that little guy though, I wouldn't mind going seeing one again though. I'd like to go, actually, I'd like to just go camping in British Columbia. Some nice area by a lake in summertime, just fish the lake for 2 weeks, and we could leave a couple cured hams up in the trees. And you know what we could do? We could get some big, like, cheap malt liquor and like open them up. It would be funny. That would probably work. Honestly, if we just got like a keg, like a big keg, of cheap malt liquor and just opened it up and left it with like some fatty chunks of pork or something that have been smoked, and just hang that up there. They'd probably like that coat. I'm gonna put a lot of salt on it. They'd see that as a nice gift.